We're good to go, guys. So, without any further ado, in the north, in the blue, it is TheViper playing the Mongols. And at the bottom, in the south, in the red, it is going to be RecoN playing the Rus. Guys, that's going to be really cool to see how exactly this series revolves over here. We're obviously going to reset the map a little bit. So this is still the south. But RecoN is actually starting a little bit towards the eastern side of the map. If you do actually see the entire map, we can see that, this is basically the north western corner for TheViper. And he actually is going to tack away this TC very close to the wood line, so he's not going to move it too far away. Of course, you're trying to be as efficient as you can with the villager production, so he starts it immediately without really worrying about moving this TC anywhere else. I'm surprised, to be honest, because you can get a nice villager and economical lead if you just move the TC closer to this Uvu. You can obviously double produce villagers very early on, which is probably not something that is present in the meta. Which is probably why we do not see this happening for our Mongol players in the tournament. I did try to do this myself. Actually, this did work quite well for me. Like when I was still playing Mongols, I do think there's a viable strategy if you plan on turtling a little bit. But if you just want to be aggressive, of course, just getting double archers production, I guess, is going to be the way to go. So more army produced early is going to probably beat any sort of those defensive or economical plays that you might be trying to pull on this Uvu over here. So we might just see a lot of wood gathered and a rather early archery range drop the moment that you can get your hands on this. Let's follow the scouts, by the way, because that's also very important. So you can see RecoN actually catching this hunt over here. This hand is completely killed off by RecoN as well. So RecoN is going to get a decent amount of money from here. You can see him resetting those auto attacks. Like he's basically getting 100% accuracy on this. Okay, I'm wrong. That was basically Caster Curse. He gets all those resets right now. And he's going to kill all those deer. Another scout from RecoN actually over here getting the wolf as well. Every single wild animal that you can kill as the Rus is going to provide you with a decent amount of bonus to those that bounty. Of course, you want to get at least 250 on any map that you're playing on, and if you can get more than this, of course, you will get an additional benefit as well. So the more the merrier. If you try to obviously get the maximum possible efficiency out of those scouts, it is going to award you quite handsomely. Now, usually the reaction of the Mongol players to this approach would be the stable being placed over here. This doesn't happen here, however, so Viper actually decides against that approach. He sees probably the advancement to the next age as the better choice, so he doesn't double produce a lot of scouts. He just gets towards that next age, and he's gonna try to age up very quickly. RecoN on the other side of the map also dropping that landmark. It is the Kremlin, by the way, so he's gonna go for the defensive landmark, which is, I think, very surprising, because we are used to getting the Golden Gate as the Rus. Which obviously does give them this nice benefit in the form of very advantageous trades, allowing them to expand into the second TC really early. But, all the second TC plays so far in the tournament have been a complete and utter failure, so I do not believe we're going to see this work today. So, this being said, because of how aggressive the games have been, I think getting the Kremlin might be this kind of less greedy approach. Obviously not going to be as efficient money-wise, especially if you think about late game as RecoN, but this being said, this is still better than nothing. So obviously, just basically how the Golden Gate works is that it does in a way generate 50 free resources every minute. That's basically what it comes down to. Of course, also giving you the flexibility of trading, so it's not necessarily just the 50 resources, also some extra flexibility, which is obviously quite good. We see RecoN actually luring those wolves towards the TC and expanding that hunting bonus to 190 only. I'm surprised this is so low, so it's very likely that our Mongol player has actually been able to acquire some of those hunts to his own name, and this means that RecoN is actually quite starved. He has not been able to get even to the second tier of this bonus, and he does really want to get that. So the only way he can get even more than he has right now, because there are so few sheep actually at his disposal as well. I think he made a lot of mistakes with those scouts, so he really needs to get those boars killed, at least one of them. It is no longer possible for him, I think, to go up to that third tier, but getting that second tier is still quite realistic. Should he be able to just obtain those extra animal kills from the balls. So that's basically how it's gonna go. We see the Mongols actually dropping the deer stones very late, 5 minutes into the game. We're gonna see 5 minutes 30, I think we're gonna see the age up for the Mongols. And I believe this is going to be the archery range play because he's getting a lot of wood over here. And that's just kind of the only reasonable thing he can do. Although this might also be a 2 TC play from the Viper actually. You might see the Viper actually just going very quickly towards that quick second TC. Remember that the Mongols need 900 wood for that, so it is not going to take any of that stone that the Viper has been able to tuck away. It is just going to be pure wood expenditure here, and I think he's just going to go for that. There is no other good reason to be, you know, banking 700 wood or 600 wood at this point in the game. So deer stones once again built by the Viper, by the way, which is very interesting. We have actually seen a lot of players, you know, Beastie Cutie among them, you know, who's one of the best Mongol players in the world right now, advocating that this is just a useless thing, and you should probably never get the deer stones. However, we can see a lot of players actually going for this and using that offensively for the pushes, right, which is pretty cool. So you can just basically pack up the landmark, just take it to the enemy base, and you know, use it here to exert some extra pressure. Of course, your defensive structures also do give you that YAM network, so you can move very quickly with all your units if you just have some sort of infrastructure built around your enemy's base. It's very reminiscent of how Brits play, by the way. So that's kind of the thing. We see archery range and a stable dropped for the Rus, and there is an early knight deployed onto the map alongside those 2 scouts. And the archery range finishes, but our Rus player is not yet going to commit to any additional archers yet. We see probably another knight queued up. We have a lot of knights actually queued over here. I think it would be a better idea if he's not going to produce many archers to actually just, you know, get double stables maybe, but it's me, not RecoN. And RecoN is definitely like top 4 in the world right now, so I probably should not be commenting on that. And as I said, we're seeing the second TC dropped very, very early on. And the question is, like, can Viper hold with his army right now? Because he's getting very greedy second TC. He only has a single barracks to his name, and this is also going to be quite a... I guess it might be a questionable play if we see it punished, but it is just basically about like whether he can finish this on time, just get this extra defenses, which he absolutely can. We see this basically unpacked over the wood line over here. We might see this TC move towards the berries, which is going to be also which is going to allow the Mongol player to secure his foothold over here. It's actually going to move all the way towards the hand, which is even better for the Mongols, which means he doesn't need the professional scouts upgrade. We see a small clash over here. The Khan actually engaging upon the cavalry. He's going to probably get away almost unscathed, and he does regenerate the HP as a scout, so he's going to be fine. The YAM network, of course, providing all those units of the Mongols with some additional movement speed. But those units, you know, protected by the TC, I think they're just going to be okay. The important thing to see is that, you know, the Viper has quite small amount of vision here, and this wood I might actually be getting in the way. So depending on how well RecoN actually knows the game, he might actually be able to hide behind those wood lines and just kind of circle around, go into this base of his opponent, and just maybe exert some pressure. So it would be nice actually to see players use those line of sights, which are very, very pronounced in Age of Empires 4, right? You can actually see that those tree lines do generate a little bit of fog of war, actually. Shadow of war is not exactly the thing here. So the fog of war is generated by those trees. There's also no invisible patches over here, so if you hide in here, just like RecoN is doing, his units obviously have very short sight, so they might clash with his opponent, but at the very same time they are also invisible, so unless you enter this bush, you will actually have no idea that those knights and those archers are situated over here. The Viper, of course, does see, he actually spots those very late, so the scout, of course, has a bit more vision range, but even he doesn't quite see that too well. Yeah. Hello, online peasant, by the way, welcome to the stream. Nice to have you again joining us for this occasion. As you guys can see, by the way, we see we have 2 archers, actually 4 archers right now, 6 spears for the Viper, and a very decent number of knights for the Rus player. I do not think this is going to kind of end up in any sort of a clash, especially that the Viper is playing a super defensive game, and this outpost over here is just going to give him a decent vision into the map. So he's just going to, as I said, this is very important to be able to spot your opponent on the map, and you know, he also spots those units moving in, so he has very good idea that there's a ram push coming. Actually, he does see the ram being built, which is a very important thing. I think this is very hasty from RecoN. I think he could have chosen a better path as well, but this is completely scouted. I think Viper should be fine. You know, he should just be able to basically produce some additional units. He's gonna get a second outpost over here as well. He's gonna garrison this tower with additional units. That's gonna add some arrows to the mix, of course. And you know, the Mongols should just be able to hold on to this precarious position. I think it's gonna be okay, even though there is a large force for RecoN actually coming in. But I do believe that the Viper actually has a decent idea as to what exactly is coming his way. And obviously, you know, the villagers, who are plenty over here, are just going to be very good at dealing with this. Though this does deny some mining. You know, we have 10 villagers over here, you know, just defensively garrisoned into the TC, which means that they're not gathering any resources. But there is going to be a price that RecoN has to pay for this in units, I believe, right? There's one knight already being focused down quite heavily. He dies. And we do have those pikes actually engaging into melee. There are 5 additional pikes garrisoned here. I do not know if, you know, the RecoN actually recognizes this situation properly. And those pikes actually unload from here, and they are going to do a little bit of damage to those knights. One of the knights actually falls, and the second one is gonna follow in suit. And this is actually looking like a very decent cleanup from our Mongols player over here. So our AoE 2 Pro is actually going to take over this game. We see a decent number of units actually pushing through as well from the Viper. And with the Siam network bonus, you know, we can see how ridiculously fast those villages are. We're going to see this attack very likely to be repelled. Another knight dies, and those are very expensive units just going down for the Rus. And you do not want to be throwing those away. So you might still see, like, you know, 0% win rate for the Rus in the tournament if this kind of keeps going like this. And the Viper is actually chopping down so many of those trees. Probably just trying to produce as many of those archers and pikes as he can. He's also getting some additional production here. Second barracks, second archery range being deployed on the map. And this is going to be a lot of production for our Mongol player. You can see also that there is a blacksmith researching additional ranged defense for those units. This does affect every single unit in your army, so it's very efficient if you're playing against a composition that involves archers, and you know, RecoN's composition obviously does. You get a lot of kind of efficiency with your units this way. We see 4 scouts deployed on the map by RecoN. By the way, he's gonna go towards those hunts, I believe. There are a few of those not picked up yet, and they're just gonna be trying to grab as much as they can of the map. It seems like they were actually successful at taking quite a few of those, so RecoN is just going to clean up the map of all those wild animals. You can see how many are actually stacked below the TC over here, which is indicative of the fact that, you know, we'll see probably quite a quite a decent economy here. I do not think... I mean, you can potentially do this Omni, but the problem is that villagers have extra damage against any siege. So if you push with rams, you are very likely to just get killed by the villagers if your opponent just pulls enough and has enough army to defend the villagers as they clean up the rams. So it is possible. You can... I actually did play and also cast games where this was the case. So taking those rams and pushing is a possibility. It's a decent... thing to do, but it is not going to be that efficient if you don't have enough units to back that up, and I do not think... Plus, rams are very expensive. They cost 300 resources each, and you can obviously invest those into, you know, battle units, into combat units that can actually do damage to your opponent's infantry or cavalry, which is probably going to, you know, propel you towards the victory a bit faster than the rams themselves. So it is quite expensive of a unit, of course, right? The nice thing you can do, by the way, is that you can garrison units into the rams if you're playing against archers, and cavalry can just garrison your pikes into the rams and just kind of, you know, drive the pikes into the melee so that, you know, it's not so easy for an opponent to target you this way. Which is pretty good, as I think it's pretty cool of a mechanic, right? You can hold a lot. You can hold 32 units, which is more than RecoN has right now on his hands. You can just kind of drop all of those into those rams and just garrison them in there, which is pretty cool. We also see that's actually a very aggressive push from RecoN, actually. So it's going to be a very heavily focused feudal aggression over here. We see a wooden fortress being constructed over here, probably giving RecoN a decent vision of what is going on. But this is actually quite scary because I do not think the Rus have actually expanded to the second TC. Indeed, they have not. Whereas the Viper is sitting on 2 TC econ, so he is producing more units. He's producing more, I mean, villages, right? He has better economy, and the longer this game goes, the more dangerous it becomes for both for RecoN, I think, to kind of keep going, because there's going to be way more resources available to the Viper, unless Viper fails to move his units away and the villagers just die, as it is witnessed over here. And the Viper actually is going to repel this attack on once again. It seems he has a lot of archers in the lineup, and those knights are not really doing much yet. We see the Mongols actually dropping that offensive arrows is going to give an additional attack speed to all his units. To the Mongols, right, for quite a few seconds. Is going to obviously increase their DPS significantly. However, those knights of the Rus are actually pushing through. You can see villagers being pulled against the ram, so the ram is probably going to die at the cost of a few villagers dying, by the way. So you can see that those villas of the Viper are just going to take a lot of damage here. At least 5 or 6 are gonna fall overall, I think. However, this aggression is repelled because the rams are taken down. So the rams do die, and this is basically going to be a hold for the Viper, though there is a cost, there's a price yet to pay. You have 58 economy for the Viper, by the way, 2 RecoNs, 52, so the gap is not that huge, and it is kind of closed by the fact that RecoN does have that bonus, 205 hand bonus right now, that he's able to use to his advantage, right? We are nowhere near aging up, by the way, for those players, so both of them are actually going to, I think, focus heavily on the military. Still, there is no opportunity for either the Viper or RecoN to actually just push through. I'm actually surprised that there is no raiding happening, because you can see that those scouts probably have noticed that there is a hunt over here. Oh, that's crazy! Wait, there's a third TC, I did not notice that at all. That's very greedy from the Viper, actually, to go for a free TC play here. Whereas, you know, our Rus player is actually sitting on a single TC only, so he really has to do something here. He does need to exert more pressure, he does need to actually go for something aggressive. It might be the case that this TC, by the way, falls, because there are only archers left for the Viper. He has to just kite back. It might be this might actually mean that this TC does fall, and the Viper is reduced to a 2 TC economy, which by no means is bad, by the way. I do think this is going to happen eventually, so this TC very likely to just fall. Those knights are focusing their repairing villagers, and this ram is very healthy still. However, RecoN is actually running out of archers, so he is actually going to be repelled once again. The Viper does hold. That's crazy good hold from the Viper. With those Mongols coming in clutch once again. Obviously, this is, you know, this is gonna be at the cost of a few villagers' lives, but we see a lot of aggression coming in, and I do not think that the Viper is going to be broken here, but it's feudal aggression of the Rus. So the Rus actually are going to force to back away, and the Viper is going to persevere, and he's going to hold onto this base. He's going to hold onto his economy. He's going to just push away against a RecoN right now. RecoN is going to be in a very precarious position. As Viper inches forward on the map, he's going to be able to perhaps just kind of dominate a little bit more as well. So you can see that there is also going to be this large force over here from RecoN just escaping, and the Viper is going to take over this kind of blind spot on the map, which is pretty cool for the Mongols player, of course, who is sitting very comfortably on the free TC economy right now. He's probably going to go towards this next age up very soon, because he's just allowed to by his opponent. He has 460 gold, 1,000 food, so he's very close, actually just 100 gold basically, keeping him away from being able to age up right now. And there's a lot of production, there's a lot of houses also going down, so very, very likely for RecoN to actually be housed, or no, actually he doesn't have army to be housed. Now the nice thing, of course, is that there is the Kremlin over here, which can be used as the defensive structures. It's not likely for our Mongols here to be able to push, so those Mongol forces are obviously not likely to just kind of deliver a killing blow, especially that I do not believe there is siege engineers researched yet. For the Mongol player, it is not yet on the cards. However, this being said, you can obviously get empowered siege engineering, by the way, if you are playing the Mongols. Oh, there is a fight actually breaking out, so just kind of go here. The important thing is that you can actually get this one, which is also going to allow you to not only construct siege towers and battering rams as the Mongols, you can also get the Mangos, Springles, and Trebuchets. And Trebuchets are very unique here, because you can normally not construct those with any other civilization, I think, using the infantry, using the siege engineering. So it's quite interesting. Viper on the counter-attack right now. He's going to go for this nice angle. He's going to remove some of those houses from play. He does not, however, have that siege engineering research yet. So there's also a small raid of the knights over here happening. So there is going to be some small econ damage probably taking place. And the Viper moves around. He ruptures on this base. He doesn't realize there is a nice pile of villagers actually over here. So RecoN kind of greedy on the map, taking those berries, and Viper does actually reach castle as well. Whereas RecoN doesn't quite have any hopes at all towards getting to that. No, never mind, he's actually castle as well. Oh, that's crazy. When did he do this? I'm so dumb. How did he do this? When? I was not paying attention to that at all. So I did see this. I thought this was Viper. So the actually RecoN is also in castle. They actually reach castle at the same time. They're just gonna actually cancel the engagement. We have early knights, so it's not. I think they aged at the same time then. If those early knights actually engaging on the archers still, so there's no veteran unit in the field yet. We see a small engagement. There is an upgrade to the actual knight, so those are very strong units right now for the Rus. I'm surprised they're fighting face-to-face against those pikes, though. I think you'd prefer to see them engaging on the archers. But this looks like a cleanup, because we have the, no veteran units for the Viper yet, and these archers are just gonna all die. I think there's no way that they can fight back against those upgraded knights. That's a very good engagement from RecoN, actually, and the Viper falls here. He loses a lot of his units. Obviously, it's not the game over yet, because we see a lot of those hardened spearmen being produced again. So Viper, very good army production. He's just gonna get cleaned up over here, but there's a decent army, probably waiting at home, and he's going to have enough probably to hold. In terms of supply, though, we have 100 supply total, with 63 econ for RecoN, and we have 98 supply with 85 eco for the Viper. So Viper is significantly behind in terms of the army numbers, but he's still producing. He's going to get some men-at-arms, of course, to deal with very heavy, front line for RecoN, though. This is a very small force. I would really hate to see Viper throw away all those units. He has to disengage with this. He really needs to run, because if he loses these units, he's really not going to have any chance to defend against the forces of his opponent here. This singular outpost, I don't think is going to be enough to hold off those attacks of RecoN. I really do believe that you should just withdraw from here. You should just kind of give up this position. There's a defense arrow used, which is going to increase the armor of nearby units, which is not bad, of course, but there is nothing left right now for the Viper over here. And he's sitting on a very, very low army count. Only 19 military remaining, whereas I think we have like 50 or 60. No, it's just 40 for RecoN. So RecoN does have basically double the supply right now. He's going to be pushing with rams over here. We see a lot of archers also being produced, which is pretty cool, right? It's quite a large force overall. I should actually remove the camera, just realized it right now. So you see this very large push over here from RecoN coming in. And it is a very significant advantage for RecoN in this particular matchup here. We can see also those archers pushing in quite heavily. So it's we see two crossbows actually being completely, just sacrificed by the Viper. I do not know why he did that. I do believe this is kind of unfavorable again for Viper to give up all those units. He could have just kind of sat at home, allowed his opponents to just take the ground here, and just slowly grind at him with maybe some archers at least. But he could have stayed safe, just could have just had those units ready here, and he could have had like a decent army waiting for his opponent. Right now he has very low unit count overall, and the Rus is pushing in. We do see some knights being produced, by the way, for the Rus. So we see a single knight so far, just kind of eked out by the Viper, but this is very small army count still. I do believe that we have 50 army count for RecoN, and we have 40 for the Viper. So he's actually making up for the difference, and he has a superior eco right now. We do not see a second TC, I think, still for our Rus player, and there is nothing here in the base that will be indicative that he's going to expand anytime soon. The Viper, though, is getting raided a little bit. There is this step redoubt actually being aggressed on by those knights, but there is, the ball is dropped by RecoN. Actually, he could have actually followed those villagers and maybe killed like 2 or 3 more. He doesn't do this. There's a small engagement happening. Oh, there's actually a big fight over here. So you see the knights actually repelled by the infantry of the Viper, and those archers kiting back. He has so many of them, though. I think these are just going to be able to clean up any infantry that the Viper is able to produce. However, this does actually mean that RecoN is forced to just kind of kite away and fight back. Then he's going to be pushed away from the base of the Viper. And as we know, the Viper does actually have superior economy behind this. So as the game progresses, I do think that unless we see a very quick second TC from RecoN right now, there's going to be a significant advantage for his opponent. So those knights are just going to disengage over here. Those archers shooting away at those infantry units of the Viper. And the Viper is going to lose quite a bit of his forces. And this is actually not looking like a favorable trade for the Viper anymore, though there is more army coming in, and of course those YAM network units with the also defender's advantage are going to come into the fight very quickly. They're probably just going to be able to take over a little bit. There is, however, this Saints, I think this was a warrior monk buff, right, for the Rus. So there must have been like a warrior monk in the mix, because those units did have that buff from the monk, which buffs the attack by 2. So we see the engagement over here on the farms as well. So Viper is actually pushing into the base of RecoN right now. So that YAM network allowing those reinforcements to come in very quickly means that the Rus is actually short-handed here again. So there's no large defenders disadvantage actually. So there's no nice defenders advantage or attackers disadvantage for the Viper, because his YAM network, those deer stones, are actually going to allow him to supply his attacking forces even further. And this Mongol is just kind of going to be thrown away. I do not like this, because he could just kind of, he could have just put it here, just positioned it in those kind of narrow streets of his city, which would have meant that, there's not going to be much that his opponent can do to it, because there is no way you can just basically go through all those units that are blocking the passageways. So this Mango thrown away is definitely not good for our Rus player. And I do think he's losing ground quite heavily. You can see that also reflected in the score. The Viper with like basically twice the score of his opponent right now. He's winning every single trade he takes. Obviously those wooden fortresses are going to have some DPS, the game called, and the Viper with the Mongols is going to take the first game of the series. So yeah, actually in terms of how those two civs play, and Viper with very greedy expansion actually manages to hold on just narrowly, takes this series, and he's going to be 1-0 in the series right now. He takes the match, not the series, of course. We still have a lot of games to go. The Viper, though, with a nice advantage over here, showcasing how powerful Mongols can be, even if you go for like this very heavy economical focus, right? We saw like triple TC drop, and the Viper still able to, both produce villagers, probably consistently through all those TCs, and also keep producing a lot of army units, which is pretty cool to see. I do like this from the Viper. This very aggressive and greedy play being rewarded here. Of course, that works quite well if you're allowed to do this. And the Rus just had no steam in the engine anymore. They had nothing to fight with, and they were forced to just give up. Unfortunate as it is, of course, for RecoN. I think he played a very good game. I do think that pivotal moment in this game was that situation when RecoN was about to take that TC, but he eventually just he narrowly did not manage to do this, and he threw away too many units. He kind of threw away all his advantages in terms of army supply, and Viper just had more economy. He had more backbone to his army. He had just more production in the end, and he was able to just resupply way faster than his opponent. You can see there was 0 stone in the game for RecoN. He had no double TC. So he had fewer villagers, he had less economy, like you can see this in the numbers as well, 7,000 food less for RecoN, like way less wood as well, which means that basically there is nothing you can do if the game drags on and your opponent is producing villagers at the ratio in which Viper was, right? The Viper actually did dip over here. This was this big fight, which basically meant that, he had to throw away some of those villagers of his to save that TC, and though as he did actually save that, it meant that it was impossible for RecoN to kind of continue that aggression. And we're actually gonna go into game 2 right away, because apparently they're just, they're starting very quickly. Yeah, that was 12 full, almost. No, it was not Zergraf, man. If there is also a so-called D-Rush in the game, this is basically you not going to feudal age instantaneously. You just make some units instead, and you try to be aggressive, denying your opponent resources, basically forcing them not to go feudal as well. So this is a valid strategy, by the way, but it didn't happen here. We have seen this like few times, like I think from the Viper, actually. I think the Viper did this with his Mongols yesterday. I'm pretty sure this was the case. And there was one like tower rush with the Holy Roman Empire as well in the very first day of the cast last week. So that was also the case. Now we're waiting for the players to load as well. We have 3 minutes to go. We're just going to wait for them to kind of go and get ready for the second game of the series. It's going to be the Mongols from RecoN right now. It's going to be the actual opposite. Like, it's going to be a very cool situation for the Viper. The Viper can actually take this one as well, because we're just basically we're gonna see the reverse matchup. So it is RecoN on the Mongols right now, and it is the Viper on the Rus, which means we see basically the tables turn. How turn the tables, right? As goes the Office meme. But exactly what happens here, we see Rus actually played by the Viper and Mongols played by RecoN. So if TheViper can actually take this match as well, it's going to basically just establish the entire, I think the momentum for the series, actually. Like, that's basically going to be that. We'll see how exactly, TheViper is going to hold against RecoN in here. If he's going to be able to, just maybe do things that RecoN was unsuccessful at. That's going to be very cool to see exactly how those two players deal with this, reversed matchup. I wonder if RecoN is also going to recognize he's allowed to be greedy. And also, there's also, this kind of micro aspect, because Viper just handled those situations very well. So he made a lot of correct decisions. He also had like very cool micro there. So I wonder if RecoN is able to perform at the very same level as the opponent or no, right? That's basically the question that we're dealing with right now. We have 2 minutes to go. I'm gonna just kind of relax, chill a little bit. I need to, relax my vocal cords, and we'll see how exactly those two players play. So that's gonna be a very cool game, I think, guys. By the way, Omni, do you know you can get this game for $1 on if you just get this free first month of Xbox Live? Because you can do this, so I think this would be also quite cool. If we could play together, even if you wanted to, could do some meme games together with this. You can basically, get the first month of AoE for $1. And I do think if you could stream some other games that I saw you stream, you can also stream this, because it's very similar. It's kind of low spec game, so you can probably just have that work for you as well. That would be pretty cool if you could team up and play some cool games. I would be very eager to do so anyway, because it is $60 on Steam at the same time, so it's ridiculously expensive if you just want to buy the full game. But if you want to get like the first month, it is just $1, guys, which is not so much at all. We're gonna have to wait right now. Obviously, 42 seconds still remaining, so we're just waiting for those players to get ready. I might just get rid of the camera as well, because I do not think it serves any purpose in the games. So we're just gonna hide it, and we're gonna go into game number 2 of the series. Okay, we're in. So, guys, in the West, in the blue, it is going to be the Viper playing the Rus actually this time around. And on the other side of the map, in the south western corner, it is going to be RecoN playing the Mongols. So how turn the tables, right? It is going to be the opposite situation here. How the tables turn, of course, being the correct expression in English. We see RecoN playing the Mongols in this reversed matchup. And this is a very different map, however. You have to remember that this is going to be Mongolian Heights, with those 3 shallows on the river over here, which can be crossed by the boats, by the way, which you guys might not be aware of. I wasn't until yesterday. And also, these can be walled, so you can build a wall in the middle over here, like over here, and over here. And you can basically deny your opponent passage up until the moment that they get rams, which I do think is going to be a very valid strategy for the Rus if you want to kind of boom a little bit, right? I do think that's going to be quite a decent option, especially that, the Rus have very strong walls, high HP ones, that cost basically the same as the regular palisade. So the fortified palisade has 3,000 HP in comparison to 1,500 of your regular palisade wall that Mongols can't even get. So the Mongols do not have the comfort of walling, but which is unfortunate, because we have seen like how nicely they can boom. On the other side of the map, though, the Viper might actually be tempted to go for that boom later on. We see a lot of wood being gathered as well. I'm not sure what exactly this is going to contribute to. I think this might be actually a boom like where you just go for double TC play. We have seen this, you just go Golden Gate and the second TC. And honestly, RecoN had I think he wasted the opportunity there, because he did not use the Kremlin too much. He had that, he had this defensive landmark. He was not being attacked by the Mongols. He went for an offensive play himself. So I'm actually surprised that he went for a defensive landmark and a single TC play. I think that's kind of, if you go offensive, you could at least support your economy with that golden gate, and he did not do this because that's just a nice extra resource boost that you can use to just, you know, bolster your production a little bit more. He just didn't have that going for himself, so interesting. Oh, I know why he's going. I'm silly again, guys. He's going for the wood because there's a water, like there's water on the map, and he obviously will see some dogs being placed, I think. So there's going to be one of those villages probably like very, very soon from now, just moving across the map towards that water, and, you know, the Viper is going to probably just build a dock of his own. I see this happening quite soon. Though I might be wrong, there might be some other, you know, strategy being used by the Viper with the Rus. RecoN, though, obviously going to... Oh, no, there's actually I did not see this on the map, but there is a villager who marched across and who's actually about to drop this very nasty dog right in the face of RecoN. So, RecoN, you have to be mindful there's going to be a lot of competition here. As you can see, he does spot the dog. And I do believe that the Viper... Oh, no, he doesn't see this, so he was blindly placing this over here. Now he realizes how grave his mistake might have been, and he is going to probably be forced to, you know, just kind of combat... They'll be forced into water combat very soon on a small river map, which is quite interesting, actually. Now, you can see the Viper actually killing off some of those hunts. Actually, there is some... yeah, there is some game being killed off by the Viper. RecoN did, I think, catch a single hunt over here. So this is denied from the Viper. The Viper actually did not go for the second scout, which is quite surprising, to be honest. We do not see like this happen too frequently. We are used to having double scouts for both. Oh no, he did. Actually, there's a single scout over here. Now there is this Lodia fishing boat, by the way, for the Rus. And the cool thing about the Rus is that they can use those fishing boats like Zerg use their larva, and like the Zerg use their units. Actually, so they can transform those Lodia fishing boats into other attack ships. So they can actually just do this in the feudal age very early on. They can just use this battle over here to just switch them to attack ships and just kind of deal some extra damage to their opponent. So that's kind of cool as well. And now if you want to see how exactly the map looks for both players, I do not think RecoN was able to spot too many hunts. Whereas, as you guys can see, it is the case that, you know, the Viper does find a hand over here as well. The Viper does find the hand over here. He's actually going to be able to get way more than RecoN was with his Rus. I think there are like way more hunts on this map as well. And on top of that, he gets a lot of the sheep as well. So we see a lot of them here that actually, I think Viper might be able to hit that double, that third tier of bonus very soon. Because if you just kill off those sheep as well, they're 5 gold each. So they're 5 bounty each. So getting just 20 of them and a couple of hands might mean that, you know, actually the Viper might get this full bonus for the Rus to the economy. This means that they'll have like very, very strong eco coming into this matchup. We actually see spearmen actually being produced and attacking this dock over here for the Viper. The Viper actually forced away. He has to send those fishing boats towards the south and, you know, just maybe relocate his entire economy here. Although there are 2 fishing boats over here tacked away into this corner of the map, and as the Viper hits the next age, which should be soon, probably like in a minute or so, he's also going to be able to exert some pressure here onto the navy of RecoN. So the Viper is sitting on 440 food right now. So those sheep, as they arrive in that TC, they'll probably just be killed off. And the Viper also getting those wolves killed. So this means that he'll have the full bounty very, very soon. And it's very productive. There's actually a lot because this is basically 15% food harvesting rate. And also those caverns generating the gold at an increased rate. So that's a very nice bonus overall. And you really do want to have that if you are the Viper here. It is going to be very nice early game for a way better early game that his opponent had the opportunity to enjoy. So it's going to be very big if he's able just kind of to you know, keep going with this early aggression here. If he decides to do so, of course, I do believe that he might just go towards you know, quite rapid military production right now towards this kind of boom of military. Since we do not see any stone being harvested, right? Because the Viper should be getting stone if he does indeed intend of getting that second TC going. He doesn't quite have that. He doesn't either have enough wood to, you know, to just kind of trade gold for that stone and get that advantage this way. Those Lodia ships are actually, one of them is transforming into an arrow ship as well, and this is actually one of those Lodias is killed, and there's an attack ship over here that is going to be attacking those spears. Actually, 2 volleys are enough to, or is enough to kill off a single spearman. So it is very efficient at killing those infantry units on the ground, which might dissuade RecoN from attacking those ships on the ground here. attacking them with the ground units anyway. We see this Lothian over here attacked by those defensive structures though, and it is gonna go down just from this singular outpost shooting arrows, right? So it's actually quite an interesting situation here for both our players, and we do see those warships actually, all three of those Lodias actually just kind of moving around the map and exerting some additional pressure as well. So two of them are actually transformed into warships, and this one's still a fishing wheel, just trying to contribute to the economy of the Viper. The Viper does not, though, have a single dock to his name, so there's going to be obviously quite a big issue. He's not going to have enough to support himself if the game kind of keeps going like this. There are two of those Lodias here attacking the spearmen, and they're just going to move towards this lineup of RecoN. Of course, this tower, though, might prevent any further aggression. And there's also a small raid with the scouts, no less, onto those villagers, and it doesn't accomplish much, not a single villager killed, and those two scouts are just gonna be dead to rights. So that's not big, actually. I do think that, you know, the Viper does actually lose those two scouts for nothing. That's obviously not that great, not that big of a deal, but he does lose the scouting potential with this, right? So obviously not too pretty either. Overall, I think this advantage RecoN, actually, because RecoN is able to go up to very high resource count. No, it's actually the Viper. The Viper is actually going to boom. Never mind. So RecoN is actually, I don't think RecoN is aging up yet. He's age 2 with low resource count actually, whereas the Viper is probably going to go towards that very fast castle. But you know, the Mongols are very good at getting towards that early lead, so you know, RecoN might also have enough resources very soon to get that age up going too. And we see actually the Viper spending some of that gold that he had banked up. So is he aging up yet? No, he's not. So he did spend that gold towards something else. He's gonna go towards tech actually. And the tables do turn because RecoN seems to be actually willing to go to the next age. We see the singular TC over here, so no triple TC play that we did see from the Viper. So it's gonna be like just the single TC and a lot of fishing boats to support the economy. And there is going to be quite a bit of there's going to be quite a bit of that strong production actually happening here for our Mongol player very soon, I guess, because you're not gonna go towards those. So we see stable being dropped, second stable as well, and the age up is gonna be started immediately as well, I think. So it's going to be very strong kind of offensive play, probably like a timing attack in the castle age that the Viper doesn't seem to have a response to yet, right? We see a TC being dropped as well, so the Viper does actually focus on that economy, and he might actually pay quite a large price for this, because as we see probably siege engineering being researched as well, you can have a very strong sprinkled push actually coming through the map with those Mongols right now. So we have seen this yesterday from RecoN. Actually, he executed those timings very well, and we might as well see it right now, just kind of getting those very strong units very early on, getting this kind of very decent upgrade count, and just going across the map to kill the Viper where he stands. The Viper, though, I think recognizing that situation, also stores away some money, and he might be aging up relatively soon as well. RecoN, though, and RecoN is actually like 30% through with this, so it's not that bad for him at all. We see 9 villagers actually constructing that upgrade for RecoN, though, and the Viper does actually inch towards his own second landmark, so he's gonna have enough resources very soon to just get that 1200 food, 800 gold, meaning that he's gonna age up any minute now. He does drop this high trade house actually, so he's gonna go towards the economic landmark once again. This is going to be another hunting cabin that also spawns the deer, so there's actually a very nice catch-up mechanic if you want to go for that, if you're playing and if you don't have enough hunts. But this is just going to be something that supports your economy a little bit at least. With those deer, of course, it also generates some extra gold, so it's not that huge of a deal, but over time this might be enough. And also we see triple barracks dropped for the Viper. I think him being cognizant of the fact that there's a lot of production for his opponent here, so he does, I guess, scout with those knights that the push is imminent, and he does have to prepare something. He sees there's a blacksmith as well being constructed here, and indeed those double barracks also over here, supporting the production of his opponent. And we do see regular, I'm surprised by this. I would really prefer to see, the empowered improved siege engineering, because this is something that gives you a lot of power in towards that sprinkled production on the battlefield. So I'm surprised he's just gonna go for that. We see the Eastons actually moved forward already, so we see a lot of aggression potentially coming from the Mongols. And the Viper does actually not see this, so he's not aware. He's blissfully unaware that there is something here that will probably facilitate a very strong push. Sorry, this being said though, we have a lot of barracks in production, we have a siege workshop as well. So the Viper should have enough to support this, this defensive play. He's 160, that's actually very good. Because this is bolstered by this third tier of economy here, of the bonus for the Rus. So we do actually see that there is a lot happening here in terms of the gold income. 168 is a very, very good overall bonus to income. Per minute, obviously, it's kind of a lot. So the Viper gets a lot of free gold right now. He's going to produce a lot of units as well. He's spamming out the spears right now. And he probably will get the veteran upgrade relatively soon too, to further improve the HP and the damage of those spears. On the other side though, the Viper actually is getting a lot of units here. He has a push coming in, and it's going to be a deadly one as well. I do believe that there is going to be... Oh, there's this improved siege engineering coming in as well, so we see this actually researched very soon. So the Viper is actually going to have to deal with those Pringles very, very soon as well. There's a ram being built. And as that siege engineering is kind of, I think, timed with what is happening, we'll also see some additional, higher tech siege units being deployed on the battlefield too. Now, the Viper having a siege workshop over here as well, probably will be producing mass Pringles, because that's very good against, first of all, enemy Pringles, which you have to kind of intercept to some extent, but also against the rams, right? So he might get this very strong upgrade. So those roller shatter triggers, this is the Rus getting very strong bonus, +2 range, but it requires you to go to H4 to actually get this upgrade going. And that's going to be something that, the Rus needs to probably just kind of research later. We see those 2 Springles over here for our Rus player actually, with a very, very decent range, 10 range for those units. And without his, I do not think that without the Springles of his own, RecoN can actually push this anymore. He needs to get some decent army count and also to get some decent economy before he's able to contest this position. And also those Deersons actually being threatened by the Springles, they're gonna burn down if there is nothing done about this, right? So this is going to be quite a nasty situation. This is actually blocked completely, so those Deersons played recklessly in this place over here. Obviously, if you're moving your structure, if it is packed up as the Mongols, you also lose the armor bonus. So this is gonna die very fast, and I do not believe that there is a way to save it for the Mongols. So this is just gonna drop over here, and this is gonna die. It does actually disappear completely. So unlike the standing landmarks, this has to be rebuilt completely from scratch, and the Mongols just lose that YAM network bonus for now, which is very big actually. So very unfortunate loss for RecoN. RecoN actually has to rebuild this now, I think. He maybe just loses that permanently if I'm not wrong. He might have just completely lost that, I believe. Yeah, he doesn't have the possibility to rebuild this anymore, I believe, right? So he completely abandons this position, he loses that landmark, and he has no way of actually getting that anymore, and he loses the bonus altogether, I think. Doesn't he? Which is very unfortunate for the Mongol player, of course. We see that on the other side of the map, those Rus forces are actually accumulating, and the Viper is able to establish a very decent economy. So the Viper might be, he might be the only player in the tournament right now who has been able to, successfully play off double or triple TC. I think he is just very good at this. He's able to turtle very well. He's able to, intercept the enemy timings as well. He's going to be able to probably defend this. We have 5 Springles moving in from the Rus. So this is quite a large army count here. Obviously not really anything that the small forces of the Viper can match right now. So I might have actually been, caster cursing this honestly, because this is a large force. This poor villager is gonna die as well. There's a large force coming in from our Mongol player. This is a large siege. We have lots of knights as well. We can see 11 knights for RecoN. Overall, the army count is very, very large. We see, overall 40 units for RecoN and about like 30 for the Viper. So if he manages those Pringles correctly, of course, he's going to take a very decent favorable fight over here, because he's gonna snipe the enemy's Springles very quickly here. It seems like there's just going to be 1 remaining for the Viper, and the Springles standing, there's gonna be 5 or 4 of them for the Viper coming in right now, and this is going to be a massacre for the villagers as well. So Viper is gonna lose a lot here if he even manages to hold on to his army. Of course, the Springles are going to be taken down by the villagers, who have very decent anti-siege attack, but I do think they have to back away right now, just kind of go garrison to that TC, and just kind of Viper is actually losing this, I think. So Viper is gonna be taken down by RecoN here. He has very little army standing still. There's one sprinkled. This is a very aggressive push again from RecoN. So the Viper doesn't learn from Hera's mistakes. He plays very greedily here against the Mongols of RecoN. He's gonna get pushed down completely and lose the matchup as well, it seems, because there is no standing army for Viper left. He has what, 2 military against like 30 of RecoN, I believe. Yeah, 25 for RecoN still on the map, and those units on the map are just not sufficient anymore for Viper to hold on, I think. So there is one last-ditch effort, actually. So the Viper does actually decide to trade some of his gold towards the stone. He's gonna go towards that keep, actually. That's gonna be a desperate drop of the keep over here. But there are a lot of knights actually kind of moving towards this attack. The question is, like, is the Viper able to deal with those siege rounds, maybe? Because if he's able to do this, there might be still an opening, because if he gets rid of those rams, actually, and gets rid of those siege engines overall, this might mean that, his opponent is going to be forced to back away, because obviously just those Berry Knights and Berry Spears are not good enough to tank all those arrow shots, right? So, because there's a tanking mechanic Age of Empires 4, so there's a ram in the field, the TC is going to focus fire on that ram most of the time, right? So it's going to be at least tanking those natural tower shots of the TCs in keeps. So the Viper commits to finishing this. He doesn't have enough, though. He has no forces to, basically just distract his opponent, and this keep is very unlikely to go up. And with this keep going down, so do the chances of the Viper in this matchup, I believe. So the Mongols obviously on the offensive still. There's a large force coming in, so there's a lot of units streaming into this base of the Viper through the river here. And again, this this keep is going to be completely denied. A new can rise is kind of going to come into this, adding additional like bonuses to the force of Mongols. Obviously using those arrows to further bolster the forces of the Mongols, and there's nothing left on the map for the Viper. RecoN with 100 supply to Viper's 59. It was looking grim, now it's looking just straight up terrible, man. So those villagers at a last-ditch effort over here to reconstruct the TC, I do not think they're going to succeed, man. They're just going to be taken down as well. That ram goes down. Those villagers are just going to try to desperately focus here. There are some packs coming through, so maybe there's some glimmer of hope still for the Viper, but there's obviously not much left, so this keep is going to maybe allow him to stabilize in here, but this position over here is still heavily exposed. And I do believe that RecoN realizes this, so he's just going to charge through this. Choke point over here is just going to kill off some extra villagers as well, and probably build a ram or two and just kind of attack over here. And obviously, if you are the Viper, you cannot just pack up and leave anymore, right? You're not Mongols here, so you're just going to have to defend this if you want to survive the matchup. Obviously, the economy of the Viper also in shambles. He has lots of inactive villagers. He has very few villagers overall, 48 to 64 of RecoN. So RecoN has superior eco right now, superior military, and obviously those knights also recognize that there is a small mining camp constructed here for the Viper. So they're gonna raid this. There's also an exposed location here with 3 villagers that can be raided quite successfully, and those knights actually gonna wrap around, maybe find this location too. The Viper has very few chances of actually surviving here, I think. So a very good game very good Mongol game for RecoN here again. It seems that Mongols do actually hold a decent advantage in the matchup against the Rus on those open maps. And yes, it seems that the Viper, again, it seemed like he was able to stabilize, but he's actually not able to do so anymore. And he loses the large encounter in the middle of the map, and he is taken down. And he's also going to lose that Springald here. He's going to be taken down completely. And there is a small engagement, probably like that last-ditch effort for our Rus player, where he just engages all his forces. Obviously not too numerous in this case. They might be actually serving as some sort of a distraction here, since the villagers are trying to so desperately defend that TC. And those knights re-engage here, of course, from RecoN. RecoN having a very large army count overall. Very unlikely for the Viper to be able to hold this, actually. And, this TC will eventually also burn down. Those villagers will die, and the Viper's economy is just in complete shambles. This keep over here, of course, are able to protect this position for the Viper for now, but I do not know how long this is going to last as well. Those knights are actually going to chase down those villagers who are moving towards this mining camp over here on this edge of the map, and this large force of RecoN over here is going to probably to be all that is required by this player to take over the matchup completely. Obviously, the score reflecting this 3,000 to 4,500, which is not as bad as, you know, the advantage was for the Viper when he was playing the Mongols, but still, the advantage stands, and the Viper is very likely to be forced to relinquish this position over here. And we see, obviously, those knights over here might be cleaned up as well, but, you know, RecoN has such a big force as well. He has a huge bank in terms of gold. So whatever Viper does right now, I think RecoN just does better. And we can see those armies actually trading away quite happily in here. And those knights also winning the fight for RecoN. RecoN can also, if he wants to, just right now use the pressure that he has to just kind of age up to Imperial and maybe just win through this. So I do not believe that, you know, Viper has any chance of doing anything this game. He has no economy working, by the way. So he has a decent number of villages, but he doesn't have any working eco. So RecoN has 72 mining villages, guys, whereas Viper has 38 villages total and 24 basically scuttled away in those fortresses, in those theses, and in those keeps. So he's not going to be able to actually get any sort of resources on top of the stuff that he has. It's just going to be a very swift massacre, as Omni is saying in the chat. It is going to be the, you know, the execution, I think, coming down. The axe is going to come down, and Viper is just going to end up on the chopping block of RecoN, being completely slaughtered. And, you know, I do admire his resilience. That's basically like fantasy GG. That is the term that is used in StarCraft 2, where you just kind of call GG too late. It comes from one player who was called Fantasy, by the way. I think it was a Korean or Chinese player. And he was actually, you know, just not able to sustain himself here. Yeah, that's basically that. So, yeah, as Fantasy was not able to win the match, he was kind of holding on to that GG button, who was holding on to calling that GG over here. So this is not looking like a win potentially for this player. Hey there, Sheffield, by the way, nice to see you joining the stream. Nice to have you over, man. Nice to have you over. And we see those Springles actually attacking the fortress as well. Those Rams assisting them as well. So there's a large, there's a large amount of contest over here actually. And this infrastructure from the Viper not going to be long for this world, I believe. So the Rus do not seem to be holding well in this tournament, guys. They do not seem to be doing too well at all. And obviously getting raided in every single location is not great for the Viper over here. He's getting like some scraps of the map, obviously. There are very few villagers left, and I do not understand why we're still in the game, honestly, but we are here. I believe that, you know, Viper is just delaying the inevitable, really, because the count of army and the count of economy, 37 and 15, to RecoN's basically 130 supply total. Obviously, this is like a completely lost match. I think there's no way for the Rus to hold on to this. Oh yeah, yeah, that's what you could do probably. Yeah, that's very toxic though, Sheffield. It's very toxic. I wish we had that in the circus though. Because I remember in the circus cast, people would just kind of come to my stream when I was casting their games to just kind of BM their opponents in a way, right? I think we can speed this up because the game has already ended on the side of the Viper. Right, we have the 2-minute marker, so we can just speed up the massacre. I think there's not much to be seen here. Those knights are just gonna wrap around. You have more knights than pikes, guys. That's how bad this game is. You have like 20 knights over here, I guess 16, and they're just gonna completely clean up those pikes of the Viper. There's nothing that the Viper can do, and this fight is probably just going to be the marker of the end of the game overall. Yep. So guys, RecoN not being as decisive as his opponent in the previous game, but he does take over the series, or kind of equalize the score anyway. We are at 1-1 right now, and it did look quite hopeless. I thought it was gonna be like kind of a a one-sided series, given how how decisive the Viper was in game 1. But RecoN actually fights back very well, and he's gonna equalize the score. It's gonna be this 1-1 scoreline right now in the best of 5. Very possible they're in another game already. No, they're not. So they're just kind of waiting to start the next matchup. But I'm very surprised, actually, that this went the way it did. Yeah. So we're just going to wait for those guys to get into the next game, of course. I'm going to launch up the camera so you guys can see me for a while. And yeah, we're just going to wait. Sheffield, how are you liking Age of Empires 4, by the way, so far? Because I think you have been to a few of my streams, at least. I know like Omni and Sys have been sticking around quite a bit for this. I'm kind of, Also happy to see you guys coming in. So how has your experience with the game been? Because AoE 4, by the way, is kind of nice to the beginners as well. I think it's kind of a game that allows the beginners to get into it quite easily. So if you were interested into playing that, we could obviously do a stream together even, I think. It would be probably very nice to kind of, engage with other streamers coming from the same background, of course. I do believe it's kind of a nice game to try. Yeah, we could do some coaching sessions even. I think that would be nice, like having a coaching to new players. I think this would be nice YouTube series as well. So I could even coach if you were to play against each other. I think that would be also quite a valid thing. So you could just kind of, you could play against Omni even, and I could just coach you afterwards. I could just kind of tell you about the replay and talk you through like all the mistakes that you might be making in the such. I think it's on the cards, guys. If you were just willing to do that, so we could call like a nice kind of coaching session or two. I think that would be very interesting. So I don't know how well you would respond to it. Obviously, like, if there is anybody else watching, you guys are most welcome to join the coaching as well if you are willing to do so. So we're just gonna go into the spectator mode once again. To this that sounded garbage. Okay, guys, we have 3 minutes 40 seconds on the clock, by the way. Okay, are you in law school right now, Sheffield, or are you just kind of applying for law school, by the way? But you can do this, like, since if you can stream, you could like do stream. We could stream together, basically. We could do that. I think it would be very fun. So I could first of all cast your game when you were if you were to play that, and then we could also talk about your mistakes. I could obviously tell you about the stuff and such. I think it would be very nice, like if you were to play against another beginner. So we're just waiting right now for the series to get started, guys. We are sitting on 2 minutes 50 seconds on the clock. Oh, that's good then. Where are you? You're from Portugal, right? Like, which city are you studying in? Is it Lisbon? Oh yeah, you make no mistakes. Like, new players in RTSs, they're just perfect human beings. Yeah, exactly, Shepard, exactly. My good sir. 1 minute 50, guys. 1 minute 50. We're just waiting for the miracle to come in a way, I guess. We're just gonna wait for the game to start. We'll just get into that the moment it does. Yeah, because I told it to Omni, but you can get AoE 4 for $1 for the first month on Xbox Live. So if you have Xbox Live already, it's obviously going to be you know, just including the subscription. If you don't, it's just the first month being $1 only. And there's a small trick, you can probably just keep making accounts, so it can be infinite. I'm obviously like an ELO nerd, so I'm not gonna do this because I want to kind of keep my ELO. But I might buy I think I might buy the game on Steam because I just like having permanent games. So that's kind of the thing for me. So I might just buy AoE4 on Steam. Okay, that's gonna be the classic as well. It's gonna be the Vipers classic. Guys, it's gonna be freaking English versus French. I can't wait for this. It's gonna be one of the best games, I think. Because we saw Viper playing English versus French yesterday. It's again like another classic, historical classic first of all, but we have also seen those guys play against each other yesterday, I think, right? Sorry, we have seen Viper play against Lucifer. It was Lucifer, it was, right? He was the first opener to the series was actually English versus French. It was very aggressive from the Viper, and he was actually very decisive taking that victory. So I wonder whether like RecoN has something up his sleeve prepared against the English, because Viper seemed very proficient, almost indestructible on the English himself. Especially in this particular civ matchup, right? So RecoN has to be hoping, like he needs to have something special up his sleeve. We're gonna get into the series, so camera off. Here we go. Guys, it is going to be the third game in the series. So in the very bottom of the map, spawning in the blue, playing the English, it is going to be the Viper. And at the bottom, no, sorry, in the north of the map, playing the French in the red, it is going to be RecoN. And those two players, they have met before today in two previous games, that is. That is going to be a third game of the series. So they did manage to beat each other in the Mongol versus Rus matchup, so each of them was able to take the Mongol victory. So there is no more Mongols in the series, however there's still Rus, and those two players seem to favor Rus, so we might actually see, you know, them playing the Rus once again, under different circumstances though. So we can see that these players are very, very seasoned, especially, obviously, the Viper. But they're both tournament veterans at this point. They have been able to make it through multiple best of 3, best of 5 series to get where they are. So they're probably like equally matched, I would say. And depending on how well they do, they're just going to be able to advance, right? This is a best of 5, so still you need 2 more victories if you are either of them to move on. It is actually Xbox Live. It's available on PC as well. So you can buy that service and you have access to all those kind of games in the service. Basically like a subscription-based access to many cool games. It's not bad. It's not bad. I tried it like a few months ago before. It was very nice. It was a lot of nice games like Frostpunk as well there, so worth trying. And also Gears Tactics. I think that's why I bought the pass initially, because of Gears Tactics. So, RecoN here, going towards the gold, of course, as the friend. There is no other way. This is the approach that you have to take. Get as much gold as you can, of course, and yeah, you can actually basically develop your economy like this. Get a lot of early knights as well. Just kind of get a lot of units and apply some pressure onto the English. But the English, of course, if you are the Viper especially, they're gonna be able to respond in kind, and they're just gonna be able to get a lot done over here in terms of just the sheer numbers of units they're producing, and also in terms of the, sorry about my dog. Also in terms of the, you know, the sheer power and the micro ability of the units that the English have. So it really depends on how well the Viper plays the matchup, I believe, and how early he's able to eke out those units and produce infantry and archers. So you see this very early council hall dropped. You probably will see a lot of villagers shifting towards the wood. So the Viper actually goes down into the TC, probably trying to attack that scout. That's very reckless of RecoN. He's gonna lose the scout immediately, and that's very bad for the French, because you really need to keep tabs on your opponent, and losing the scout so early is obviously a huge oversight on the side of RecoN. So scouts are really powerful than AoE4, and losing one so early is just going to maybe not be a death sentence, obviously a very, very significant mistake. because I do not think you can just remake that very easily, and that is just going to be a lot of relinquished vision, especially if you're going to harass with cavalry, because you do want to find the weak spots of your opponent. So if you can't access those, that's going to be quite a problem for you, of course. So you can see RecoN here, of course, getting a decent amount of villagers onto this skill of cavalry. And TheViper also building this. Oh, now it's just 2 actually. He had 4 before, he only has 2 right now. I think you recognize he doesn't need many more onto this building. And we might probably see TheViper going towards the pikes. That might be the case. Like he might go for like the spears and archers over here on this side of the map. Whereas of course RecoN here probably just gonna spam cavalry and hope for the best. We might see some archer support. I guess that's kind of something that works against the pikes. You get some archer, you get some pikes, and you probably just kind of are able to hold off your opponent. Unless you let the English build a tower near your base, then you're gonna be in a lot of trouble, because then you probably need to ram it down, because it just gives a lot of bonuses. The network of castles, namely, just benefiting you quite heavily if you're playing the English, of course. So cognizant of that fact, I think RecoN actually goes towards those palisade walls. He's going to just kind of wall off the entire base. I guess eventually, I'm not really sure why he chooses to go for the walls against the English specifically. Maybe he just kind of wants to create those choke points and just use those choke points to his advantage later on. So, right, he just kind of, I guess he reduces the surface through which his opponent can access his base. That's the idea here. TheViper, by the way, is going to read the second age as well. We can see over here that he's getting that council hall. So that is also going to benefit him to a certain extent. We can also see that there is going to be... Okay, thank you for the follow, by the way, whoever you are. Deacon501, welcome to the Twitch. Thank you for the follow, mate. Welcome to the dungeon. Welcome to the stream. So you can see that there is going to be quite a lot of villagers here onto the wood, actually, for TheViper, obviously, indicating that this is going to be an infantry push to some extent, right? We see a lot of those archers being produced. Probably they'll be matched by a couple of those, of those spikes from TheViper as well. Whereas our French player is going towards this kind of heavy economy with a few knights to his name, I believe, already. I do not see a reason for him not to have a knight. So you have, what, 5 archers for Viper, matched by a single knight only for RecoN, maybe the second knight joining the fray very soon. So 2 knights to 5 archers. I think this still favors the knights if they were to meet in the middle of the battlefield. But you can see RecoN actually securing this very nicely with a tower. So it's not going to be so easy for those archers of the Viper just kind of approach his position anymore. So that is going to be very different from what Viper did to Lucifer yesterday, where Lucifer had very little defensive structures on the field when the attack happened. Right now, so what happens is RecoN actually is very prepared to defend his position. So if you want to engage into the base, you cannot do it through this choke point and through this choke point. You need to go through here, which is in the range of the TC. So this is basically going to cost you some units. And if you want to engage from here again, there's going to be an outpost all reconstructed. So there's going to be a lot of kind of coverage for RecoN on the map. He's going to kind of enclose his base and maybe just go towards stronger economy, because we can see him mining stone already. Can we? Or is it completely coincidental he has the stone over here? No, he's getting the stone somehow. Is it like a stone deposit? Yeah, there is a stone deposit over here. So he's getting the stone slowly with 2 villagers, which means he's not going to commit fully to getting that next TC, but he's going to kind of slowly produce, just kind of eke away his way towards that. So he's just eventually going to be able to reach that extra TC, and with that he's going to probably be able to gain some extra economic advantage, which the French already have with their increased villager production rates, right? So that's going to be very nice if he's actually able to survive all the way until that moment. You have to notice, however, that there are only he has garrisoned those knights, right? He's garrisoned those knights, I think, yeah. So you have 3 knights in this outpost over here. That's the only unit that RecoN does have, whereas the Viper, of course, sitting on a healthy 12 archer count. Sorry, I did have to yawn. So actually RecoN is not spending that towards, so he's not gonna get, oh, that's very interesting. So he's gonna get arrow slits on those outposts, so he's not gonna go towards that next TC very soon. He's just gonna get enough stone to facilitate those arrow slits. So just gonna mean that you get a decent defensive force, or built onto those infrastructure units, onto those outposts over here, which means of course there's going to be more defensive potential for our French player. So he's just gonna tilt. Actually, he's gonna tilt against the English. He gets another wall off, by the way, over here. So it's gonna be a heavy commitment, by the way, to those wooden palisades from our French player. And actually the Viper is gonna go for the same. We have not seen this before. This is very uncommon actually for players to wall off like this on those open maps. Obviously, they're kind of tucked away in the corners here, so they're allowed to kind of get nice coverage with those wood lines as well, and they might be able to just kind of defend this. Are we desynced from the map? Actually, I think we must have DC'd from the map somehow. Is the stream going, guys? Is the stream working for you? Do you guys can you guys still see me? Because yeah, I think the replay just disconnected for some reason. So I'm just going to switch the screen so that you cannot see the result of the game, because I guess it must have just ended for those players. I guess, or they DC'd. So we're just going to go back to that game very quickly, because I think that's for us. So we're just gonna go back right away. We're just gonna catch up to that, because I do not want to show the results. I have to just kind of change the screen very quickly. We're back to the cast, guys. We're just gonna catch up to the moment where Viper builds those walls. I'm sorry about this. That's kind of independent of me. Those replays just occasionally crash for everybody, even for those kind of big spectators, right? So we have seen people reporting this left and right. So it's not just kind of an unknown bug. It's just something that happens. Yeah, thank you, Shepard. I did double check that the stream was up. So very quickly, just catching up to where we were. The game only lasted 13 minutes, so we'll see who exactly takes it actually. But we have to take some time to actually catch up to the place where we were. So you can see it's actually just kind of a short delay, honestly, because we are getting to the place where we had been before during that previous game, so we are nearly there. Okay, so the walls do go up actually, and the Viper is going to go aggressive on the map. I do not think we have actually seen this. No, we saw him actually catch up to the scout, I think, right? So we did see this particular situation happen, so this scout going down, the wolf also being sniped. So the scout is actually chased around. She's just gonna get trapped in the base of the Viper, I think. And the Viper has already researched the balanced projectiles. I think that's where we stopped the previous replay. So there is a blacksmith with additional missile attack researched, and on the side of RecoN, actually, there is no additional tech being done. So he might probably want to get at least the iron undemesh to defend himself against the archers. Those 3 knights are actually not probably gonna accomplish much over here, right? There's a lot of archers here. And I do not believe that RecoN has enough to be aggressive on the map with those 3 knights only. He will probably just kind of see that there is a wall over here with the scout. He recognizes there is not much he can do. And on the other side, I think Viper is just going to push. Like, he has enough tech right now to actually just kind of go across the map. He's going to get a few of those hardened spears. And he's just going to go across the map to execute some sort of an offensive maneuver. It is going to be basically up to RecoN to recognize whether he's able to take this fight or no. I hope for his sake, he doesn't lose any of those knights over here. He doesn't. He just kind of scouts this happening. He's just gonna disengage. He's just gonna go around, maybe wrap around towards this base over here in the north. He's just going to try to establish this defensive position over here. Viper, of course, trying to maybe go towards the siege engineers rather soon, which is going to allow him to perhaps build a ram and go for a push. Because at this point, I do not really believe you can attack this position without a ram. You cannot even be aggressive here, because there are those extra arrow slits constructed for the French. And by the way, RecoN is not going to stop at that. He's still mining the stone, so he's going to try to harvest a little bit of extra stone towards that third TC. He doesn't have enough wood to build it though, so we might actually see how exactly he managed that stone later on into this match. Now these knights are just going to go around here, not really going to accomplish much. Whereas these archers at the bottom, they're just going to wrap around. They're going to probably try to catch the knights in their tracks, and they're going to try to maybe snipe out 1 or 2. Because that's a nice thing that, the Viper has been doing throughout this game. He's actually been tracking those knights with the scout over here, making sure that, he always sees the moves that RecoN is making. So that's why the French are not that good anymore, I think, because it's just very easy to handle them with the scout. we saw that, you know, Kalajur, for instance, had a very nice inkling of, you know, playing at that scout game, because, you know, you can see more of the scout than the knights can see. So if you have the scout with the knights, of course, you can track your opponent's scout. If you don't, you can really just kind of really deny possible engagements from your opponent. So RecoN over here just kind of moving forward, kind of is being pushed back. We see obviously those extra arrow slits, adding extra projectiles here, and ensuring that, you know, this position is difficult to siege at the very least. We see there are actually 8 knights total for RecoN, so it's not like RecoN has nothing on the map. He's actually sitting on 8 knights total, which is not bad at all. He has decent military. Whereas Viper actually has like about 20, 35 units. Actually, that's not decent then. I think he's toast, guys. I think he's toast. So you have a lot of pikes, actually. You have so many archers. And RecoN, he was so sloppy with getting that extra archery range, actually. I'm so surprised he hasn't been able to get that very, like, sooner than this. And, you know, he's gonna get a house. He did move those villagers off the stone, but I do not think he needs he cannot afford the second TC right now. He needs to defend this attack. And deflecting this without a very solid force, I don't think it's going to be possible. Look at this. There's so much actually here. And this outpost is just going to burn very quickly. I do not believe that this is going to be defensible of a position for RecoN over here. Because he has quite a bit of, you know, he has decent forces here. Don't get me wrong, but this is not nowhere enough. That's nowhere near enough to actually defend this, I think. You can see how many knights there are falling already. There is this kind of critical mass of archers for Viper, and he has enough archers to actually just basically one-shot those knights. And, you know, the French, I do think they're gonna fall to the English again. So the Viper seems to have this map, or this matchup actually mapped out very well. And he's going to take out all those knights with those archers. He's basically just two-shotting the archers with this mass of the... so he's two-shotting the knights with this mass of archers. He's gonna also take down this outpost over here, and with this outpost I think going down, the chances for RecoN to win this matchup are also going to dwindle. So yeah, we see a lot of units actually. That's a huge advantage, and this means that, you know, we can just pass out. He calls GG, and we're gonna go towards game number 3, game number 4. Viper being actually able to win the entire series, and RecoN being on the ropes. Oh shit, my camera was on, wasn't it? Tricky, huh? So 2-1, isn't it? It is 2-1, and we see that yeah, the Viper is actually holding a nice advantage in the matchup right now. I do think the Viper's victories were more convincing than RecoN's overall, because RecoN just repeated the success of the Mongols, whereas the Viper was very creative in this one over here. So 2-1 to Viper. I do think the Viper is actually in a very good position to take over the entire series. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Look at those names. I have like Marine Lord, Kazva, Lucifer, Mista, Hera, Tato, Viper, and Vortex on my friend list, by the way. He did see me stretch, of course. Sorry. I'm a human after all, guys. I'm a human. I do need to stretch occasionally. Deacon 501, how are you enjoying yourselves on the stream? How are you enjoying yourself on the stream, by the way? Because I see you actually joining right now, so I'm very happy to see you. You know, dropping the follow on Twitch. I hope you're still there. You were not discouraged by my cast or by my camera being on. So we are just waiting, guys. We're just waiting right now for the next game to start. I think they just started it right now. We can observe Viper and we can observe his opponent. We can in another mirror. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how exactly Viper fights back as a French right now. So we have 4 minutes to go right now. We have to wait a little bit at the very least. And we see it, like, that's basically going to be the entire series, I think. So they just kind of play this one way and then the other. So they just kind of replay the same matchup over and over again. And I think like if we have the better player here, the better player is going to be able to win overall. That's kind of the general idea, I believe, that we have here. So if you have a better player, the better player, like if TheViper is indeed a better player here, he's going to be able to take over the the mirror. The repeated match actually. So if Viper is a better player than RecoN, he should be able to win with the French. So we shall see like exactly how RecoN is able to respond, because I do believe the English are very good at early pushes, and I'm not sure how good defensively TheViper is. He has not been that great on the Rus, to be honest, which is a defensive civ. So I'm really curious to see whether he's going to be able to hold his own in this particular changed matchup. Sorry, I did yawn. And my dog is going crazy. She's going berserk at the back. Can you see her? She's on the bed over here. Super cute. Little berserker. We have this idea that we'll talk to people and they ask us about the breed of the dog. We'll say she's an East India Retriever, which is obviously not the real answer. She's just a mutt. But yeah. We could say that she's the East India Retriever. We're just going to invent a fancy name. Because she's half a golden retriever, half something else. Obviously, with the half something else probably taking over the genes and the gene pool overall. So I think like from now, if someone asks us about the race, the breed that is, we'll just say she's the East India Retriever, guys. Because it does sound fancy, right? Say Indian Pale Retriever, like referring to the beer as well. That would be cool as well. If you guys have any other cool fake dog breeds, fake dog breed ideas, obviously you're most welcome to propose them. We have 2 minutes and 5 seconds to go for the cast to start. But yeah, that's gonna be probably the way. 2 minutes left. Do you guys want to see the dog? Because I could bring the dog to the camera. I'm kind of a brag. I like to brag about the dog ownership, honestly, because she's super cute. And we still have a minute left. We could kind of use that time. Because I think she's begging for food right now, so... She's wanting, guys. She's wanting the food. That's how we say it in Polish. I do not know actually how to say it in English. The dog is actually like begging for food. We say chcić, which is basically like to be wanting food. Kind of slightly ungrammatical in Polish. And she's obviously well fed, so it's just kind of a dog thing. I think she just kind of did lie down elsewhere. So we're not going to distract or disrupt the doggo. Maybe I can move the camera, move my ass somehow. Oh, she's on the bed behind me, as you guys can see. She's black, so it's kind of hard to tell that she's there because she's black. She's a very black of a dog. Yeah, but Polish Chihuahua would not be plausible because she's very far away from a Chihuahua. Yeah, she's craving quite a bit indeed, yeah. Always. She's half a retriever, like all the labs, all the golden retrievers, I think like they're super food hungry, right? They're very greedy of a breed. So that's why that's the case. Okay, we're just gonna hide the camera, guys. Welcome to the new viewers, guys. If you're enjoying yourselves, please remember to leave me a sub, a follow, or whatever else. We're gonna go right into the game, and we're gonna cast this match between TheViper and RecoN. There's gonna be match point for RecoN. He has to win to remain alive in the series. TheViper also has to win the series, so he would like to take this home already. We do not know how this ends. This was a very brutal matchup before as well. So, at the other side of the matchup, in the southeastern corner of the map, in the blue, it is TheViper playing the French. And in the northwestern part of the map, it is going to be RecoN playing the English. So the matchup reverses. The red player over here, RecoN, is going to be trying to replicate the success of his predecessor, who did actually smash him completely with his English play. So we shall see how exactly this works. I do believe that, that TheViper being I think he's the expert on the English. He's really good at the matchup. He should know the ins and outs, so he probably knows how to lose as the French, and he should know how to win as the French against the English. So he should be more prepared. I do believe that RecoN's approach, whereas he was just going for the second TC, because he did go for that extra stone. Might have been his downfall, because he really did need some extra units to defend that push, which he couldn't scout because he lost his initial scout as well. So I think he was just not ready. He was very greedy with his build, and that usually is punished. I think that's the common theme of the day, by the way, right? If you are playing the English or any other civilization, actually, that's the theme of the tournament. If you go greedy, if you go for a very early second TC, you will be punished unless you're Viper playing the Mongols, because then he was actually permitted to just play very greedily and still take over the match. So, yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say here. As far as the interaction goes, RecoN, of course, on the back foot in the series, really needs the win. He has a very lucky hand spawning near his base, though, so he's going to be able to exploit that. That is obviously a lot of food income, more, like you get more efficient with using those hands if you are harvesting food from them. So I think you'd like to see all those villagers who are currently going for the sheep also shifted in towards these deer. This will probably propel you towards a very, very early age up, maybe even sub 4 minutes. If you have that hand so close to your base, I think you can go for like a sub 4 minute age up, but he's not going for... So what RecoN is actually doing is that he's going for wood as well, because obviously he's playing the English, so he does want to have some extra income at the back of that play. There's a very nice... I think there was a video guide being posted on YouTube, actually, where there was a guy who was aging up very quickly, I think with 5 villages, around like 3 minutes 30. This might happen for the Viper actually over here, because he's getting towards that point. Right now he has a decent count of villages on this construction site as well. He's aging up very, very quickly. And RecoN is already quite behind because of those 2 villagers on the wood. Obviously he's gonna just kind of shift more towards the wood later, but he does want to have some bank build up initially in this matchup, because he does want to have some sort of a economy count, I guess, coming into this game. Right, he wants to have like a decent bank of wood to be able to, you know, produce archers really early into this matchup. And he's able to age up right now. He's going to take 4 villagers, not even dropping off the food that they have. They call like 15 food on their shoulders, and they're also going to start building that council hall for the British, which is I think the staple landmark. You have not seen anything else. There was one game for the French where we did see that market landmark being constructed, which is very rare overall, I think. And even then, that landmark, I think it was Lucifron, it was not really used properly. Like, he was not really getting traders out of it, so he didn't actually exploit that too much. But obviously, just gave him some potential to trade without building an additional market. He didn't need the School of Cavalry in the context he was playing in anyway. In his head, he didn't need that. So now the Viper actually going for some wood as well. I think Viper knows he needs some archers as the backbone of his army. Right? He does need to get, you know, knights and archers here to properly deal with what his opponent has in store. RecoN again walling very early on. That's kind of new to the matchups overall. I don't think we have seen too many walls coming down, honestly. So RecoN is doing that kind of nice wall of maneuver over here. He's gonna place those walls all okay, blocking off this choke point in turn, which is weird because, okay, this probably allows him to block off also this one here, securing the access to his base completely. I do not think this is a good one. This costs you more wood, doesn't it? This is actually more wood spent. Like, you spend more wood on this than on this. But yeah, he's probably making this as a conscious choice-ish. Maybe, okay, so what this does also for you, because the Palisade was, they tend to fall down quickly. This does give you a very early warning that your opponent is kind of going to be aggressive towards you, right? So maybe that's the idea here. He just wants to be ward against the aggression sooner, which then makes sense. Because they do go down, like you can burn down the Palisade walls very quickly, so I think this is going to be nice anyway. So getting this kind of partial wall off is going to be nice. Obviously, not probably the best strategy because you are wasting some resources that you would like to be using on those archers to, you know, just kind of to be secure in your base. But I do think RecoN is going to play a passive game here, so those walls are justified by the fact that he wants to play not an aggressive game here, he wants to play a passive one actually. Oh, this might be a... No, it's not enough. He doesn't do enough damage. I thought this was going to be an archer kill, but this actually is a huge overreach. He's going to get shot down, he's going to take a lot of damage here. Definitely not a good trade for the Viper. Of course, he can regenerate this nice HP, but that's already kind of a rough start, because he cannot really reuse this knight for a while now. He's gonna take like 2 minutes to regenerate the HP on this unit. If he's obviously making more units, gonna get like 3 knights and the chivalry upgrade following in suit. This kind of the regular. I think that's the rhythm you're supposed to follow. So you're getting like lots of knights early, and then you go for chivalry to just kind of ensure that you can regenerate that HP as well. Now we see this Royal Knight meeting his buddy over here in the middle of the map. They're gonna go for an aggressive maneuver, for some sort of aggression here, I guess. But there are no good openings, actually. Like, this harassment is gonna fall flat, I feel. Because there are no good openings for the Viper. Like, he can go in towards this wood line. It's actually very, it's seen very early by his opponent. And RecoN is very fast to pull those villages back home. So he makes sure that they do not die. Those knights actually re-engage, but they're in the line of fire of those archers. And I do not think that without the blacksmith upgrades, they're gonna actually be able to do much. So he needs to get that arrow defensive upgrade to actually be able to eke out a nice advantage in this particular context. We do not see any player going towards the wood either, which would also indicate perhaps that there's going to be a more aggressive play planned by both of them. I think RecoN also is kind of... I guess both of them actually have lost the games in which they expanded other than the Viper's Mongol play, right? So I think they both kind of realized that, you know, spending 900 resources or 700 resources even towards that second TC is it's risky business, guys. It's risky business. So going for that early might not exactly work too well for you, and that's exactly what I think kind of they're respecting each other, right? And I think that's what we want to say here, right? They're just being very respectful. They do not want to overextend and just lose units. So they're or they do not want to kind of overcommit to economy either and just kind of, you know, lose some portion of their possible advantage, right, or some portion of their production. Because building ATC, it's, you know, it's basically very close to aging up as well in terms of expenditures. So it is going to be something that leaves a dent on your military production for a while. And you want to do this only when, first of all, you feel you have like a defensive advantage. You have like established a stranglehold on your enemy maybe, or you have a nice setup of defensive construction, defensive infrastructure on the map, or if you have the possibility to just, you know, see that your opponent is going for the same strategy, right? You can match it and be fine. You can see how many walls we have for the English, though. This is going to be a very difficult task for the Viper to go through those archers, to bypass that defensive line of units, and I do not think that's going to happen anytime soon. And if you do actually go, that's actually very nice as well for RecoN. If you go for this hunt, if you mill this, and the Viper tries to go through those walls, you know, using some sort of a non-ram unit actually, and not bringing archers to the mix, you can just repair this. So we have basically an infinite amount of HP within those kind of you know, bits of infrastructure, those walls over here in the northern part of RecoN's base. So RecoN here is sitting down with a nice amount of production as well, with this with the blacksmith as well, kind of researching the tech for the archers. So he's going to be fine just kind of defending, holding the position over here, I believe. Whereas, obviously, the Viper also having researched some of those additional techs. He has the wedge rivets, protecting his knights against the archer fire. He might just kind of research the steel arrow relatively soon too, in order to get that extra advantage, ensuring that he can actually do decent damage with his archers of his. So the knights, again, just trying to kind of exert some pressure, not really too successful at that either. So they're not really going to be able to do much here, and they're just going to have to disengage here as well. And again, those villagers of Viper going a bit greedy here, getting the hand down, and maybe trying to exploit that. I think if your opponent walls off like this, if you're the Viper, you can actually just kind of go around the map, be a bit cheeky. I think he must have scouted this boar, for instance, right? So he knows there's a boar here, so he can just go towards it even. He can just kind of see, okay, there's a boar here. I'm just going to take it to my villages. I'm going to kill it to my knights because they're useless anyway. So there is also a relic that he can take if he goes up to castle, of course, but that's still not so far away for the Viper, actually. Viper might actually go for a very fast castle age up, because he has resources to do so, right? Whereas RecoN actually quite distant, that's kind of distant future for him still. So he's gonna push out of the archers, unlike his opponent, and that might actually be the problem, right? Because the Viper does have a very small army, better than what RecoN was able to muster up in the previous game, because RecoN had very few archers of his own. Obviously, Viper is cognizant of the fact that he can probably go age up right now because he has enough archers to defend himself. And it's actually very slow, sloppy push for RecoN. Actually, he has full wall of, actually, he could have just kind of completed the wall of even. He could have just gone for the attack. He doesn't do this on time. And right now his opponent is able to just wall off and, sorry, is able to go up. And I do not think there's anything that, you know, the Viper can lose here, unless there's a very aggressive push. You know, there are lots of rams dropped as well. Maybe then there's an opening for RecoN to actually do something. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. The army numbers do favor RecoN, of course, but they're not favoring him as heavily as they did favor Viper in this previous match. Now, he realizes he has an advantage now for a while, because he knows that, you know, his opponent has spent a lot of his resources, and we are basically working with the same resource numbers. He knows that, you know, his opponent did spend about like 2k resources, 1,800 on something that is not army, right? So he can probably push it down if he can obviously get some nice engagements over here. Okay, so those knights from the Viper actually being on the offensive here, and they're charging towards those defensive units. So those rallied units from RecoN, so they do manage to snipe 2 units off his opponent. But those knights are actually going to be repelled here. They lose a lot of HP. One of those knights probably falls as well. That's not looking too sweet for the Viper, to be honest. So the Viper is not actually able to repel those forces on time. I do think he has actually flopped a little bit. He has a lot of infantry, though. So he did age up. So that's the difference, right? RecoN has not been able to age up, or was not able to age up in his game. However, the Viper is actually able to accumulate a decent amount of infantry here. He has like 4 barracks production of men-at-arms, who are both very good against the archers and very good against the pikes. So he's going to be able to just basically defend this position for a while, I think. So unless there's a different angle taken and a fight that is forced very early on, you know, that's also a very good maneuver from the Viper, because the Viper is actually cutting off his opponent from the reinforcement. So he's basically forcing him to amass the units. So there's no straight line of units flowing into the base of his opponent right now. But there's also going to be the RecoN can only send like a large unit of units at once, because those knights will otherwise kill off those reinforcements right away. So what Viper does here is actually he's being very patient. By the way, that's another mistake. I think that's what the Viper did with his pushes. He's been able to get some villages through, and he's been able to actually consistently build a tower to, you know, provide himself with that extra bonus for the English, right? This is not the case at all for RecoN. RecoN has no bonus from the network of castles. And there's a Mango actually, and there are lots of knights, or there are lots of men-at-arms actually pushing against this large lineup of archers for the RecoN here. So RecoN is going to be pushed away, I think. There is this Mangonel actually threatening the backbone of the army, and those archers and those pikes are going to be forced to kite away. And obviously this Mangonel here is going to be quite a large problem, because there is nothing that RecoN has on his hands that can deal with this quite well. And again, there is no unit on the lineup of RecoN that can deal with those men-at-arms with upgraded defense, right? They have like decent armor against the melee attacks, and this means they can just kind of very freely engage and chase down those archers who are very slow, right? Because the English archers are way slower than the regular archers, so if they're retreating, actually this allows the actual archers, the regular archers, to get extra volleys on them, and obviously the infantry can also catch up to those and kill them off, or shave off some army numbers at least from the opponents. So it's actually looking very good for the Viper here. The Viper is actually going to pressure right now. He has a lot of economy behind this right now. He has a decent army as well. He's going to be able to slaughter some villages as well. He's going to get some kills. And even if he doesn't manage to kill his opponent on the spot over here, he does hold an advantage in this game right now, because he has the tech advantage right now. He has those superior units. He has a lot of upgrades already kind of probably going down as well in terms of the feudal versus castle age. So he's going to probably be able to just disengage this. He loses a few men-at-arms, not a big loss overall, I believe. And those units from the Viper are just going to run away. And the Viper just kind of is able to, build an additional trebuchet as well. So he's going to go into siege mode right now. He's producing a lot of those MAAs as well. He has the singular archery range here built in place. But he's not mining gold, surprisingly. He's actually not paying attention to his idle villages, 15 of whom are standing over here. So in terms of economy, 51 and 18 military for the Viper, to 45 and 46 military for RecoN. So with those high army numbers, RecoN is kind of okay right now. He's also aging up, so he's not like significantly behind this. White Tower, of course, being a very strong defensive landmark for the English, will keep the base of RecoN covered. But he does still need to have some sort of answer to deal with those Mangos. I do think he might go towards towards those the Springles, right? And the nice thing about the English castles is they can actually produce siege units as well. So you can use the castle to actually produce a few Springles, maybe just kind of to dissuade those Mangonels from attacking your forces which is pretty good, I guess. It's kind of pretty nice overall. So I would really love to see a single Springle being produced over here. I don't know if he realizes this. I think he has to be producing those Springles. He's going for a Siege Workshop, which he doesn't really need, because he has a a standing Siege Workshop over here. Unless he really wants to double produce the Springles, which he should probably be doing. But he has... English have the unique possibility to produce units from the castles, right? Which no other civilization possesses as far as I know. I haven't played too much Delhi, so maybe they do have that as well. But it's kind of rare, like most of the other civs just can't do this. They have just Burr castles with, those emplacement upgrades, but they do not have the access to those siege units at all. So RecoN with very high army numbers, actually, he's gonna go up to veteran upgrades, gonna go up to some knights as well, which means he's probably going to be able to fight the French head-on. Obviously, the Viper here sitting on a decent eco, he's gonna go up towards the second TC as well, with the stone being gathered too. So this might mean that the English are going to be under economical pressure as well. So this might be just kind of a fake defense, fake attack from the Viper, and he's just gonna be able to, just kind of have a nice economic lead off the back of this. There are 2 trebuchets though, sieging those lineups. By the way, see you, Shepard. Nice to have had you. Thank you for coming into the stream. Was a blast actually talking to you, so thank you for chatting. It was lovely having you here. Now, there are 2 Springles, and there's a very heavy siege actually coming down. So if you're RecoN, you really need to figure out the way of actually breaking this. And there are 2 Mangos and 2 Trebs. But the nice part, of course, there are no Springles yet. There's 1 coming down from the siege workshops over here. So this might actually mean that at some point in this match, we'll see the Springles actually just shooting at each other. For now, the Viper probably notices that, because being on the hill gives you vision. So as you guys can probably see, the Viper does spot those Springles, and he does back away because he doesn't want to lose his siege for free. He would also prefer to have that fight in the open field, right? That's probably very nice too. Being able to get that fight in the open here for the Viper of his nice lineup of Mangos and a single, maybe double Springle coming very soon. Obviously getting the siege engineering here would be very welcome as well, I believe. So we actually see the infantry clashing over here, so we're gonna go into full vision, and those Mangos are gonna shoot. They're gonna get a nice volley onto the archers, but it is dodged actually. RecoN dodging those so well. Look at this. So those mangonel shots actually are missed completely, and the Viper is not able. So the Viper is not able to land any of those shots. And those Springles actually, they did get some nice damage onto those Mangos before they went down. Now there are no Springles left actually, so the Viper at the back of this fight was able to shoot down the Springles of his opponent. So those Mangos are going to be able to do some damage in the end over here. I think this is going to be a very nice fight for Viper. No cleanup anyway, but this is going to be kind of it's going to allow him at least to push an inch a little bit further into his enemy's territory. So again, a very nice close game. And there is nobody really taking the advantage over here. And RecoN, of course, forced to stay back with his army to make some extra knights maybe and go for a re-engage. Okay, so there's no real kind of big advantage won by either of the side. Of course, there is a small siege numbers advantage for RecoN, and we have not seen Viper. For Viper, and RecoN has not been producing siege units through this castle. I'm surprised that he's not doing this. I'm kind of surprised a player of this caliber doesn't know that this is the mechanic, this is the thing. Especially know that the English have been around since the beta, right? So we might actually see him not produce a single siege unit from this castle as the game kind of moves forward. And the keep is actually kind of completely unused. And you see the English actually we see the French actually inching forward right now. The Viper obviously sitting on 600 stone, so he's not going towards the second TC, I believe. He only has 1, but he's going towards that extra stone that will probably be used towards getting a very large number of keeps at the end, right? He's gonna build a keep on the hill right away, I guess. And there is no good response right now for RecoN because he has no anti-siege. He has no siege of his own. He has only 3 Springles that are easily matched by Viper's count, right? So it's kind of good. And obviously there's also this outpost here being sieged upon by Vipers, probably gonna get sniped before any units can reach it. But the Viper might actually be forced to trade for it, right? The Viper might actually be forced to just run away and not kill off the villagers who are defending that outpost. So those MAs actually are gonna engage over here. And actually RecoN wants to take this gold mine, so he really does want to kind of establish a position over here which might be the possibility actually for the Viper to maybe contest it to some extent, right? We might see villagers moving through the map very quickly, very soon actually from the Viper, because he does want to probably get those vills towards the position here and to build that keep somewhere here. So RecoN actually cleans up this fight over here, kills a lot of those MAAs, and probably nets himself a nice advantage in terms of the army numbers, 71 to 33 in terms of the eco to military, against 51 and 33 for RecoN. So RecoN does actually sit at an economical disadvantage. So I'm not sure if he stopped producing villagers. You can see that actually can confirm it right now. He's still producing vills, so that's not the case. But the Viper might somehow have snuck a single TC somewhere on the map. That is also not the case. So I guess the English just have been producing villagers more consistently, right? That's the only plausible answer here, I guess. And we see a nice force from RecoN, of course, but RecoN doesn't have that much eco. So Viper actually sitting on a significant supply lead, 74 and 40 to 50 to 40 as well. So the armies are closely matched, but the economy does favor our French player in this matchup over here. So we might actually see the Viper winning this mirror and actually taking the series home as well, which is quite exciting actually in my eyes. Also, you see some harassment here. The Knights actually going into the economy of RecoN, actually trying to harass a few villagers, but there is no good outcome of this for our French player. He only loses a knight and is forced to run away. Actually, there's not much. There's not much cavalry being produced for the Viper. Is mostly settling on those infantry units and the siege. We have a lot of those Springles, 2 Mangos as well. 5 Springles, 2 Mangos, and also 2 Trebuchets, which are definitely going to be a very decent factor coming into the later stages of this game. But you can see RecoN has not researched those camps, which means that he cannot regenerate HP of those archers, which he would really like to do because he has a lot of low HP bars, which means he has like half the army count of that he kind of has on paper, really. Because losing, like, this is basically lots of those archers who are vulnerable to a single shot coming from that Mango right now, and we are still not producing anything for this keep. So again, RecoN probably not having enough mastery on the civ to match the knowledge and the skills that the Viper has been able to bring to the table. The Viper, by the way, has enough stone to build another keep, so he can actually have this keep over here. He can actually move those villagers as well down and get another keep slightly more aggressively positioned here. You can see an engagement here. The Mango's actually getting a lot of damage on those archers, and you can see those numbers of the archers thinning very quickly. Those are 2 very bad shots, by the way, but there is also a nice flank from the north from the Viper. Viper was actually able to wrap around the forces of opponent, getting the flank over here from the north, and he's gonna basically clean the table, I think. He's gonna clean the fight up over here. He's gonna get the Springles. RecoN had a nice Springled lead, so he had a nice artillery lead in this fight, but he's gonna be cleaned up to some extent. But the Viper does actually lose a decent chunk of his own forces as well. So I think if you're the Viper here, like, you might actually want to start thinking about late game right now, because I do not think he can break this English lineup so far. He was able to take down the single landmark, but that's basically all she wrote. So far, there's going to be a very stable slow game. So RecoN able to stabilize to some extent, but there is obviously a small villager disadvantage. So every loss that RecoN takes is going to be a bit more costly for him than the losses that the Viper does have inflicted upon himself. And obviously, I think he did lose, so RecoN did lose some of his mining villagers over here on this camp. And this is a very important position for our player. By the way, the Viper does recognize that he needs another TC, I think. He's going to build another one somewhere. Unless he went for an emplacement. Maybe this, he built an emplacement, I think, though. That's not a second TC, is it? No, not really. So Viper's still working with singular TC with the French, and he's doing super well here, actually. He's gonna go for a keep, and again, so he's gonna be a second keep over here. The 2 siege workshop drops, so I think the Viper is gonna go for like full offensive here. He's gonna muster up a nice amount of forces, and he's going to just kind of go for a siege, moving those knights in position into the base of RecoN. So that actually turned out to be a very nice long game. We have those trebuchets, like, that's actually a nice advantage as well, because we have 2 trebuchets on the side of Viper, which are like relentlessly attacking those buildings of his opponent. And even this white tower here for the English is not going to stand much longer. I do think that eventually at some point RecoN is just doomed to lose this game. Viper has 3,000 gold, by the way, so if he really wants, he can probably just spend all this gold on the market, just purchase some food and go up to EMP. Even I think there's a possibility, because RecoN has been spending every single inch of resources he has had. He's also losing villagers, so he's bleeding his economy. He has 40 villagers to what, 70, 80 of Viper. No, Viper is 98. Oh god, he has 98 econ. This game is over, guys. So Viper has been able to somehow manage to produce 98 villagers, whereas RecoN has been just losing villagers left and right, and this means that basically this game is over, I think. Because no matter how well RecoN trades right now, he doesn't trade well because he's being sieged, right? So it's not really a good position for him even. So even if Viper, if Viper trades poorly now, he has basically twice the income. Look at this. We have like almost, we have like 3 times, 4 times more food. We have 3 times more wood as well. We have 2 times more gold, and we also have like a decent amount of stone income at the same time. So whatever Viper loses here, he's able to just remake instantaneously. He's gonna be close to, you know, maxing out soon, I guess. Whereas RecoN is sub 100 supply, which is very, very unfortunate. You guys can see the supply over here, of course, in the left bottom corner. So RecoN is sitting on a very low supply, both economically speaking and army speaking, actually. So both of those angles kind of favor our French players. So the Viper is showing us how to play the French in this matchup. So you can just establish a nice siege, defend that push, and if you're able to edge up to, you know, to castle and make some decent units, you're just going to be able to win the game altogether. So obviously RecoN very late to the punch here. He's going to get demolished, and he's going to also lose this large army. So this largely that he has been to work up early into the game, right? So he had a nice army lead early, but he really loses that push. He gets cleaned up on the other side of the map now. And even if Viper raids unsuccessfully here, I guess like even killing 2-3 villagers is going to be very important, because, you know, RecoN doesn't just have much. So 102 villagers for the Viper to 41 of RecoN is not really going to spell anything too decent for our for English player over here. And I do believe given the score is just a matter of time for Viper just kind of to completely strangle him out. And, you know, there is going to be a GG called relatively soon, I believe. Also, those villagers are going to get cleaned up. RecoN is not paying attention. He thinks he won this fight over here. But honestly, those springers are trading favorably. And those knights are cleaning up every single villager on the gold over here. So this basically deprives RecoN of any sort of income in terms of gold as well. And Viper is just going to, you know, relentlessly inch forward. I think he's going to be, he's going to be able to just kind of take this game. And take this, guys. So this is complete. Viper moves to the finals. So, this series is over, guys. So the Viper moves on. RecoN is eliminated, and this was a very decisive victory from Viper. So you see why Viper wins. I think why Viper wins the series overall. He was just better on the day. He had better control of his English play. He had better control of his French play. He was also very evenly matched in terms of the Rus versus Mongol matchup that we saw initially today. So it's very interesting to see how those matchups revolve, of course. But the Viper is going to be able to advance to the finals with probably his kind of very strong advantage that he holds on the English. We'll see how it clashes